Hello everybody, you're welcome back to another round on the Reggae Appreciation Society. And in today's video, we're taking a look at the short, amazing story of Hugh Mundell. When we scan over the life stories of most reggae greats, they are mostly wonderful stories of drama, setbacks, and successes. But the life of Hugh Mundell, reggae singer, songwriter, producer, and record label boss, is just something else to behold. By the age of 16, Hugh Mundell already had a solid classic debut roots reggae album titled Africa Must Be Free by 1983. While there have been child singers with debut albums even younger than that, Hugh Mundell stands out on the basis that he wrote all the songs on his debut album and heavily contributed to the production process. As we will see later in this video, some of the songs he wrote ended up as part of Dennis Brown's own catalogue of songs. Dennis Brown is without a doubt the best known child prodigy in Jamaican music history. But where Brown started out as a child who grew into a man, Hugh Mundell seemed to have been born all grown up. This man-child characteristic is not just visible in his demeanor and carriage, but in the depth and range of his songs and lyrics. On one of his songs, Day of Judgment, from his debut album, he was preaching against the evils of capitalism and the exploitative economic systems in the world. It's simply mind-blowing to think that Mundell wrote this song at the young age of 14. Not only that, but he sang every single line on that song with such passion, honesty, and conviction that you forget that you're listening to a child. Where Dennis Brown began with love songs and slowly morphed into a conscious singer, Mundell came prepared to fight Babylon, just like David had come prepared to slay Goliath. In his short career that lasted just 5 years, he left massive impressions on the established superstars that worked with him, including his mentor Augustus Pablo, Sly Dunbar, and Robbie Shakespeare, as well as legendary producers Henry John Joe Laws and Linval Thompson, and he was given the nickname The Blessed Child before he turned 15. What would normally take many years of relentless vocal training and rehearsals came to Mundell like a gift from Jah, simply a blessing. Hugh Mundell's unusual story began on the 14th of June 1962, born in East Kingston as the last child and only son of Alvin and Theresa Mundell. Unlike most Jamaican reggae artists who rose from the ghettos to become successful, Hugh Mundell was born into a well-to-do middle-class home, as his father was a well-respected and popular lawyer in Jamaica. Hugh was enrolled in Arden High School on Hope Road, the same street as Bob Marley's house, in 1976. At the age of 12, he started writing his first lyrics and singing. He made friends with 2 other boys who loved music and spent plenty of time hanging out on the streets, singing with these 2 kids. These 2 boys, Wayne Wade and Winston McAnuff, eventually became successful reggae artists in their own right. Wayne Wade was the first among the trio to gain access to a studio and recorded a track for a compilation put together by producer Vivian Yabiyu Jackson. Mundell got his big break into the music business, firstly through his talents and with the help of a family friend in the person of Boris Gardner, who was then an established instrumentalist, singer, and producer in Jamaica. It was the legendary producer Joe Gibbs who first spotted Mundell's talents when he heard him singing in his studio. He offered to produce the song he heard that day, and Mundell became among the regular visitors to the studio, which was the usual haunt of aspiring musicians in those days. It was there that Hugh Mundell was taken under the wing of the man that would become his mentor and teacher. Joe Gibbs' studio was always full of artists looking for a break, and Mundell, being a kid, he was often pushed around by the older artists at the studio. One day, one of the older musicians told Mundell to go home and not return until he had reached puberty. Augustus Pablo, a devout Rastafarian and dub reggae maestro, stood up and defended Mundell. This act sparked a friendship that altered the course of Mundell's spiritual, personal, and professional life forever and placed him among the elite Jamaican artists of the golden age of reggae. Pablo invited Mundell to come and do some recordings with him a few days later. They recorded Mundell's first 2 songs, Africa Must Be Free and My, at Channel 1 Studios. Under the watchful eye and guiding hand of Pablo, Mundell adopted the Rastafarian faith and both men began to record regularly together. Pablo also gave Mundell a platform to sharpen his skills as a DJ with Pablo's Rockers sound system, which Mundell did under the stage name Ja Levi. From the beginning of his friendship with Pablo in 1975 up until 1977, Mundell would lend his vocals to many recording sessions with Pablo, and by 1977, from among the many songs, 9 of those songs were put together to make up Mundell's groundbreaking 1978 debut album, Africa Must Be Free, by 1983. The title of the album came from a speech given by His Imperial Majesty Haile Selassie, with backing instrumentals from some of the greatest in the business, like Robbie Shakespeare, Jacob Miller, Leroy Horsemouth Wallace, and Earl China Smith, as well as production oversight from the likes of Errol Thompson, Augustus Pablo, and Philip Smart. Upon its release, it attracted massively positive reviews from music critics, who not only commended the quality of Mundell's songwriting, but gushed over his fervent, passionate vocals that pushed his lyrical messages with an honesty and authority that held the listener spellbound from start to finish. What really touched listeners and rammed the messages home was the fact that such powerful lyrics were coming from the mind and heart of a 14-year-old boy. As Mundell's career was off to a roaring start, he showed staggering foresight when he registered his own recording company, Mon Rock label, under which he produced a song for his first artist, Little Junior Reid, better known as Junior Reid. It's amazing that the inherent weaknesses of the music industry resulted in many artists becoming independent by the 2000s had already been foreseen by 17-year-old Hugh Mundell almost 40 years before then. Mundell had already become a star when he discovered Junior Reid at King Tubby's studio in 1978 at the Waterhouse district, where Junior Reid also came from. He was so impressed with what he had heard that he took Reid back immediately to Augustus Pablo's studio to record him. Reid was just 3 years younger than his new mentor, and both young lads became inseparable. In fact, Reid was seated a few inches from Mundell the day he died. Unfortunately, as one mentor and protege relationship was starting, another was ending. Mundell and Pablo had a business disagreement, and Mundell decided to go independent. It is said that he felt that he wasn't being promoted properly and that he could do better on his own. Mundell's new single, One Jah, One Aim, One Destiny, went up to number 2 on the UK reggae charts. Interestingly, Steel Pulse would borrow the song's title as part of their song Rally Round on their True Democracy album, which was released in 1982. In the same year, his second album, Time and Place, was released, and it was co-produced by Augustus Pablo. Despite their differences, both men maintained a professional working relationship, and Time and Place was a fantastic album, which was also deemed a critical and commercial success. Before the year was over, his third album, Jah Fire, hit the streets. And just like the previous two, it boasted of a host of legendary Jamaican musicians providing the instrumentals. He made his European concert debut on October 20th of 1980 with shows in Paris and a show on the UK on October 31st. He was booked for a string of shows in the UK, including a mini tour of the UK with Aswad. But Mundell strangely declined and never turned up for that mini tour. For all his brilliance, he did have some eccentric sides to him. He was extremely camera shy, and there are very few existing videos of him performing, and there's only one of him and Pablo in existence. After extensive tours of the US and the UK, he went back to the studio to record his 1982 album in the self-titled Mundell, another incredible body of music produced by legendary dancehall producer Henry John Joe Laws. After releasing this album, he slowed down on touring and opted to work with different producers and singers on various projects, also actively performing with and promoting his artist Junior Reid. As his success was just on the verge of blowing up into mega stardom, events that would lead to the end of Hugh Mundell's life began to unfold. On the 4th of October 1983, Mundell and Junior Reid had just returned from Montego Bay. Mundell discovered that there had been a break-in at his home, and many of his household appliances had been stolen. Through witnesses, they were able to identify the burglar, and they tricked the man into getting into Mundell's car. Mundell drove the man to the nearest police station and got him arrested immediately. A few days later, Mundell was driving in his car with his wife and Junior Reid when they were flagged down by a man on the road. When they stopped, it turned out to be the brother of the man that had burgled Mundell's house. And after an argument, the man pulled out a gun, and as Mundell tried to drive off, the man aimed at the car and opened fire. The bullet missed Junior Reid by inches and struck Mundell right in the head. Junior Reid fled from the scene and returned with the police. Mundell was still alive and was taken to the hospital that evening, but by the next day, Hugh Christopher Mundell passed on at the young age of 21. He was buried on Sunday, the 30th of October 1983 at the Dovecourt Memorial Park in Montego Bay, leaving behind a grieving family, friends, and countless number of fans around the world. His murderer, Ricardo Codrington, was caught, charged to court, and found guilty of manslaughter. His debut album was titled Africa Must Be Free by 1983, but by the time he died in that year, Africa still wasn't free. It would take 7 years for Nelson Mandela to be released from prison and 9 more years for apartheid to fall. But the prayers and wishes of Hugh Mundell still came to pass, even if he never lived to see it happen. So the life and career of one of the brightest stars in reggae music was cut short. But Mundell had already attained legendary status and released timeless classics that have immortalized his name and placed him in the pantheon of immortal icons in history of reggae. The blessed child will never be forgotten. So there you have it. Thank you for watching the video today. Please leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment, as we'd love to hear from you. And until next time, God bless.